What is the secret to unlocking your full potential? What makes your idols any different than you? How do you become the person you've always wanted to be in life? This is where you get all of your questions answered. My name is Justin Shank, and I sit down with some of the most epic individuals who are changing the world with their actions in business and in life. We discuss how they did it, why they pushed themselves, and more importantly, how they were able to focus on continuous growth to achieve their dreams. Welcome to the Growth Now movement. This week, I sit down with Beaulieu. How do I even start talking about Anne? Anne is truly a kind soul who's been through a traumatic journey. And she's somebody who has seen success, in quotes, like the world tells you should see success. She had the money, she had the clients, she had the husband with the kids, but none of it was fulfilling. Why? Because she did not address her childhood trauma. And in this episode, you're going to hear Anne's journey of overcoming and the importance of hiring a coach that can help you embrace your strengths, to forgive your childhood self, to be able to truly love life is truly a journey. And Anne has really been through it. You're going to hear the emotion in her voice. I think you guys are absolutely going to love it. Not only just hearing the story and being inspired by who she is as a person, but also things that you can implement into your life to begin to forgive yourself for the past and to embrace the future and to truly love yourself for exactly who you are today. Now, before we get to the episode, I want to remind you guys that Growth Now Movement Live is getting closer and closer. Tickets are on sale now at gnmlive.com. Grab your tickets today to truly transform your life and grow into the person that you were meant to be. With amazing speakers, I'm announcing a new one next week, and so much more. You guys are going to be transformed. Head over to gnmlive.com to check out the details and grab your tickets before it's too late. I can't wait to see you guys there. Now, without further ado, I present to you my new friend, Beaulieu. Anne, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, Justin.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how we connected. You had heard me on Dov's podcast, and I guess I said something along the lines of, yeah, if you want to talk to somebody, reach out. And you sent me a message on Facebook, and I was like, yeah, let's have a conversation. And it was probably 10 minutes into our conversation where I was like, in my head, I went, I need her on the show. I need to have her on the podcast. And by the end, I asked you, and here we are. And I'm really excited to have the conversation because of the work that you're doing now, but also because of the organic way this happened in your life. And so why don't we take a moment now and just talk about who is Anne today, and then we can unpack how you got there.
Okay. Anne is, I'm a girl. I'm just a girl who loves to walk barefoot in the grass. And what sounds so simple, but to feel the grass under my feet and that it can bring me to tears, to feel that deeply, that's the journey. The Anne before did not feel, but this Anne now, she does. And that's what I bring into my work.
So, and you can feel even in that sentence how true that statement is to you. Because coming from not being able to feel to becoming an emotional intelligence coach and speaker is really crazy. And that's not something that happens overnight, right? And so obviously you're one of the world-renowned emotional intelligence coaches. And so let's talk about that right now. What is emotional intelligence? Let's start there, because I think there's still some people in the world who don't quite understand it.
An analogy that I use that people seem to understand quite well is, remember as a kid when in the winter and we would lay down in the snow and we would look at the sky and we would see all these beautiful stars, and it was just so magical. And it was like the sky was full of stars and anything was possible in that moment. We could feel our breath, that cold air. We could feel the snow, that crunchiness, and the quietness, the stillness of the night. So as a child, we have few filters. And as a grown-up, the filters that we have, the beliefs that we have, every belief that we have takes a star in the sky and hides it. So when we look at the world, there's less and less stars in it. It's not that the stars are gone. They're still there. It's just we don't see them. So we think that our sky has 3 to 5 stars, when in fact it's packed with stars. So emotional intelligence coaching removes all the filters. It broadens those perspectives so people get to experience a vast spectrum of stars in their life, whatever those stars mean to them.
I love that. You talk a lot about your journey to get there and to understand that it's okay to feel, it's okay to be open to those types of feelings that are flowing through you and not shut things out. So, when you talk about your life, and we haven't even gotten into it yet, but when you talk about what you've been through, we're given 2 choices at that point, right? We can fully embrace it and say, this is who I am, or we can hide and run and cover it up with things. And I think that a lot of times is emotional intelligence, right? It's vulnerability, it's opening up, it's being yourself. I've just been fortunate enough, and your mentor and a good friend of mine, Dov, always talked about how, like, he goes, I met you and you're just super, super open. He's like, I wish I was that open when I was your age, and so on and so forth. It was natural for me. But a lot of the times the journey is hiding, and you did a lot of that. Let's kind of get into that a little bit, how you tried to create this perfect life for other people, not for yourself.
Well, it's the first place that I maybe I should give a little bit of background.
Yeah.
I grew up at the end of a dirt road. It was super financially poor. My father was a sociopath. And I know people say that, but my father is the type of man who sat in his garage one day and decided to take a winter tire that was in the corner and carve a whip out of it to break the will of his children. I know what a whip feels like. My mother was clinically psychotic. She was crazy, clinically crazy. She believed she was pregnant with the child of Jesus Christ. My whole childhood. You compete with your siblings. I competed with ghost children. And in that crazy environment, and it was so secluded. It's the end of a dirt road. It's all forests and trees and pigs and cows and stuff like that. For me, there was no sense of reality. Of what was acceptable. My default was terror. Terror was a feeling that I knew. And in terror, we hide. We feel hunted. I was the prey, and I felt hunted down. So I went inside my head very, very young. I ejected, the way Dov put it to me, I ejected pretty much the minute I came out of that vagina. and imagine, so I had no reference point.
Yeah.
So imagine a child not feeling, looking at the world with glass eyes and not understanding any reality. And all it sees is violence.
Yeah.
So I did what most people do. I went inside my head and I told myself, well, I'm going to become so damn smart that no one's ever going to hurt me again. I have over probably 18 degrees in certification. That shows the level of despair.
Yeah. For you to chase these things, to hide, to run. Like I couldn't even imagine, I obviously have been through a lot in my young age. But I didn't lack love. Like my parents always loved me. They just had their own demons. And so I could never imagine being that young and kind of going through all that stuff and having to deal with that. I mean, what were some of those moments like as a kid, and how did you even escape in those moments of pain and terror?
Well, I remember one time I was 5 years old. My father asked me, my baby brother, he was 3, wanted to go play outside in the snow under the stars. And I said, no. I said, no. Can you imagine saying no might kill you? I said, no. And my baby brother started crying. And my father came out in the kitchen and he came beside me. And of course, I was that little, any word that you want to put. And he lifted this pine chair. It was a chair made of solid pine. And he lifted this wooden chair. And you're this scrawny little kid. And you see that rage. And the chair is about to come down. And all you think about is how many bones will break? Is it going to hurt? And am I going to die? And in those moments, you say, did I survive? I ejected. And ejected means it's a complete shutdown. You're outside your body. You're not even home anymore. So that whatever happens is like, and that stuff in the past, I used to say it with like reading a menu. I'll have the chicken or the beef. But now when I had to, I felt for this kid. It brought me to my knees, the courage that this child has, and became the woman I am today. So I cherish this child very much right now. She never gave up.
I imagine there's a lot of people listening right now who at one point ejected from themselves and ejected from their realities, and they're still floating around ejected, even though they're still not in those moments with whether it's abuse or whatever the case may be. How long did you eject for?
Until I met Dove. That was, goodness gracious. I decided I wanted to be a speaker, an authentic speaker. And I looked good. I looked really good on paper. I had it all. I had a coaching business. I was thriving. Oh my goodness. Life was great. But not knowing I wasn't feeling, not knowing that disconnected. So I said I wanted to be a speaker, and I applied. I did my video, and this man, in his compassion, saw something in me that I couldn't see. And I went to the speaker program. First boot camp. He asked to say our greatest shame, something that hurt us in front of the class. And I'm agonizing. Not about talking about the shame, but it was, which incident can I talk about that is the least impactful on people, that people will like me regardless?
Wow.
There was no feeling. So I spoke about the chair incident, and there's dead silence around them. And I completely go wounded because I'm like, they hate me. They don't like me. I knew I should have picked something else, something less bad. And I had no compassion for myself at all. And that was what was shocking for the people. There was no emotion when I said that stuff.
Right.
And then this man, Dove, walked the center aisle, and he had the bluest eyes I had ever seen. And he had this look of determination on his face. And he was like, I'm going to break down that shell. It's going to make a crack in that head for some light to come in. It took him 3 days.
Wow.
On the third day, and I'm spinning, he keeps me spinning. Question after question, my parenting, my children, what have I done? I micromanaged my children, my divorce, everything was fair game. And I just kept spinning because it was like, what have I done?
Right.
And on the third day, something in me cracked open. And it was like, when my hands open, was like, whatever's going on, I have no clue, but I'm willing to know. And that was the beginning of the journey.
You know, I'm fascinated with the idea that you felt because you went through this, you were like, how do I have people not like I want to make sure these people like me? Like, what's the latest thing I can tell them about my life so they don't judge me? When in reality, what I've witnessed is the exact opposite, right? When you can open up, when you can be emotional, when you can share your story in complete openness, people embrace you. So how did you hold on to that? I'm trying to figure out how you held on to that for so long. I understand as a kid. But when you become an adult, which was what 6 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was happening as you went through life? Was it just you holding on to that childhood, or were you still experiencing things going forward?
Okay. Well, the way that I survived, I was a morpher. And a morpher becomes anything that people wants them to be. I was smart. When I walked into the room, I read people cold. It's like I could have been an FBI profiler. As a kid, I had to watch my father. Any twitch on his forearm would mean if his hand would raise. Any twitch in the eyebrow. I could tell people which nostrils they were breathing or which butt cheek they were sitting until I met Dove, and he read me like that. And I was like, goodness gracious. And he was like, you think you're the only one who can do that?
Yeah.
And I knew I had met the master. and so I just kept morphing, and that's why I have so many diplomas. I started my career as a finance economist, and at first it was a translator. I had a degree in legal translation, So
Yeah, can we also talk about the fact that you know 3 languages as well, fluently?
Yes.
Like,
oh yeah. So see, I started as a legal translator, and then I became a finance economist, and I'm like, oh damn, I need a CFA. A CFA is good. I went and I did a CFA. People would go, CFA is so hard. Oh, I'm gonna do my CFA. Oh, I'm gonna move to China. I want to live in China. Oh man, I don't speak Chinese. No problem. I'm gonna learn Chinese. I speak and write Chinese fluently.
Unreal.
So you asked me how I survived. I survived being superficial. So I had all these diplomas, all these accolades. I had the money in the bank, everything. So in the eyes of the world, I looked good, but I had no substance. If you came to me and asked me, Anne, what does it feel like being loved? I would have started crying. Did not know. Does it feel like, do you know what you need? What do you need? The first time Dove asked me what I needed, I burst out crying. I was so scared. I was in his office and full of shame, looking down. I said to him, I need a glass of water. I need water. And he said, get up and go get a glass of water. He had this water fountain. So to feel, to know our needs, we need to feel into them and feel it. So I had no idea who I was. To know who we are, we need to feel who we are. To know love, we need to be loving. We need to feel loving. So I was like the kid looking out my whole life. I sensed something was wrong. I just didn't know what was wrong.
Sure.
Because in order to know what was wrong, we need someone else to show us, someone with a higher frequency, someone who's been there, someone who gets it, someone who will never judge us. So I needed a mentor.
Could you have navigated where you are today without the financial success, without the successes of the degrees? What was the realization? Like, would you be satisfied with where you are without that stuff now?
Yes, because when I collapsed, I call it my collapse, my ego collapse. It was so painful.
Yeah.
I cried. When you have ever had anxiety where you burn?
Mm-hmm.
I burned 5 months solid, day in, day night. I realized what I was. And I remember walking in Dove's office screaming, like saying, I'm no different than my father. I should be locked up. I hurt myself. I hurt others. Oh my God, I healed myself through others. What have I done? I'm a monster. That's where I went. And in that place, I couldn't articulate anything. When people would ask me, like, hey, you had degrees. No, I stopped coaching for a year because I refused to heal myself through others. I would come from a place of full service, or I would never coach again. I was that determined. I would have a relationship with me, and I went digging. So I had to let go of all the accolades, of everything. I had to become raw. I had to become real with me. One of the hardest things that I had to let go of is walking to each of my children. Imagine, they're very young. They're still in their teens. And to look at them in the eye and say, we have nothing real. I'm not real. I'm going to throw our relationship to the ground so we can have something real. I love them that much to do the work. So I did. So I threw everything to the ground. I burned my whole life. It took me 1 year. And then at the end of the year, I looked at Dove and I was like, now what? And he says, you have a choice. You can redo that same shit you did before, or you can be like the phoenix rising. You can build something new. And I went, watch me. And in the last 5 years, I've built my whole brand.
Wow.
It's phenomenal.
That is amazing. You know, when I think about what you went through, where you literally completely ripped apart your whole entire life and said, I'm starting from nothing. That's the epitome of change. You literally changed everything in an instant, or decided to change everything in an instant. What were the people around you saying or thinking while you were doing this? Because I think so often it's fear of judgment.
Well, I had to get used to it. Many people said to me that, You're fake. I was your friend. You're fake. You don't feel. And I thought you felt, and it was brutal. And I had to let go of all of that. I was in a romantic relationship with someone I deeply loved and who had done a lot of work. And he was like, I can't be with you. I don't know how long it's going to take. And I went through that too. My family, because I had exposed my father and many of the stuff that had happened, my whole family shut me out. I had thrown away my relationship with my children. My circle became very small. At some point, it was me, my mentor, his wife, and a few other people. And even with me bawling, never knowing if I'd ever come out of it, I would go see Dove every week because you asked me earlier. I see him every week, and he would say, keep walking, keep walking. I said, I can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. I can't see it. Keep walking. And one day I saw the light, and I asked him why so much pain. He says, so you can be a light in the life of others. And now, in that moment, I got it. I got why the pain. Because with my clients, I move mountains.
Yeah. Wow. So you can be the light in the life of others. That's amazing. And that's obviously what you're living now, you know, and it's about going through the pain. It's about going through that journey. What would you say to somebody right now who, because I think I'm thinking about my own mind, right? When I look at people who are quote unquote successful, that's in quotes because it's all defined differently. But when I look at somebody who from the outside and what the world says is successful, they look happy to me. You, I'm sure, looked very happy to the world, right? So what would you say to those people that may be listening to this episode right now? What's the first step for them to realize true happiness, even if they think that they are because they're filling void with things?
Okay. For me, when I realized it was, first is becoming real with ourselves, to stop the lying that we give, you know, we the lies that we tell ourselves. So I always say to my clients when they come see me and with a high-pitched voice, and it's like, everything is bright, everything is good, everything's perfect. and because it's that knee jerk to protect. And I say, when you're alone at night, in the middle of the night, there's no one looking. It's you alone in your bed. Where does your mind go? I'll tell you who you are. Wow. And in that place, for me, when I was alone at night, back in those days, the one thing that I did the most often was crying. I was so tired. I wanted to be a good parent, but I was micromanaging them instead of parenting myself. I wanted everything. I kept bending backwards for people. But so my mind was always about other people, always about external stuff, thinking that it would fill me in, that I would feel better. But an internal problem, an emotional void requires an internal solution.
Sure.
So that's the first step. Where does your mind go when you're alone at night with no one watching?
Yeah. You had mentioned earlier about having a relationship with yourself and how important that is. I see all the time people who don't have relationships with themselves, but they're still trying to fill the void of other people. They're trying to lift other people up. And I'm like, you have so much work to do yourself. What do you say, like, beyond what are your thoughts at night? Like, how do you begin that process of having that relationship with yourself instead of being so disconnected? Like, what are physical steps somebody can do?
For me, the first one is, what am I feeling? When we've stopped feeling, it's difficult. So to stop, instead of having that knee-jerk, that right answer, to stop, pause, and feel, and let that feeling rise like a bubble, and feeling it, and then asking, what am I feeling? Because I realized for me, I had to relearn what is a feeling of sadness? What is a feeling of joy? What is a feeling of anger? I had to relearn all the feelings. And so I had to allow. So it was a lot of time. And of course,
I couldn't even imagine. I'm just listening to this being like, what? I could never even imagine. This is crazy. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. That's just what I was thinking. I was like, holy crap.
No, but that's how it goes. People think they know how they feel. But when we feel, we become vulnerable. We see into ourselves. If I ask someone, show me how you feel connected to yourself, often you get that, huh? And they will answer something, but it's a feeling. But we got to get quiet with ourselves. We got to get that feeling, that feeling to rise.
Yeah.
Without judgment, and then addressing that feeling. What does that remind me of? What is that about? What's the context of it? Do I want to change this context? Who taught me that? I can feel differently. I can choose differently. And it's that feeling work. That's how there's no shortcut. We get exactly what we put in. We're either interested in our relationship with ourselves or we're committed. I had nothing. I burned my whole life. I wanted to be committed because now when I look at my children in front of them and I say, I love you, see, everything changes. I feel it, the goosebumps. I shake. I allow myself to feel that. And that's how I feel about our world, about my father and my mother. I've done that work.
Wow. What has been the biggest win for you from doing this work? What have you gotten from it?
Relationship with my inner child. I'm the girl who walks at the park. I look at flowers. I'm like, oh my goodness, I see faces in those flowers. This is awesome. I look at water like a child throwing bubble of air in the air. And I'm just like, wow. I'm like 3 years old. I love this. This is priceless. I'm childlike. I hear giggles inside when there's no giggles. That's magic.
Yeah.
My life is magic. So when people say to me, would you exchange anything? Would you change anything that happened to you in the past? No.
Yeah.
Because I hear the giggles of a child inside of me.
I love that answer. And it's so funny because your story is the ultimate story where somebody would want to go, would you go back and change anything? I even for a split second thought about asking that question, but I also have had conversations with you in the past where I'm like, okay, I already know the answer because I believe, and I know Dov believes that our pain happens for a reason. And the things that we go through all happen for a reason. And what you're doing now is impacting others' lives for them to feel and for them to love themselves and kind of journey on from there. So what does that look like now in your world? You went from being a coach to now being a coach, but I'm sure it's a completely different conversation.
Oh, it's completely different. I mean, when I was a coach way back then, the person sat down. I just looked at them. Let me tell you what's wrong with you, and here's how to fix it. And for some weird reason, they came back. And now it's I listen. I listen a lot. I let them say, and they feel safe. You know, when you have a client, whether they want to build a business or they want to go become a better parent, or they want to get an amicable divorce, or they want to stop judging. Like I have people come to me and says, I'm tired of seeking price over value. I need to see my value. I'm in business, for God's sake. And to be able to have this space and where they share and that they can just share whatever is troubling their mind, that I can make someone feel safe to share that stuff, then it becomes easy. The solutions become easy. Half the battle is revealing our truth to ourselves and feeling it. Once we feel it, we know what to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I mean, I can't even imagine, going through even a snippet of what you went through. And we had talked about this last time we spoke, where I was like, yeah, I have my story and you have your story and somebody else has their story. But we have to focus on things could always be worse. Was that ever part of the conversation with Dov? Because I feel like Dov doesn't do that. He just goes straight up like, no, this is terrible. And I get it. Like, is there ever reflection?
Did. No, because that's pity. He said to me, I will never pity you. And at the time I was like, all claws went out. But pity, and I realized pity lacks compassion, because pity is like, that's terrible. you know, that people, that's bad, really bad. But then it moves no one, it moves nothing. And to move me out of pity was when he did that exercise with me about that child. And he showed me these two-year-old children. One grew up super happy, never been slapped, always hugged, I love you. And one child that's slapped every day. And then one day, the parent wakes up, slap both kids, and he says, which one has it worse? And I was like, well, of course, it's the kid that's never been beaten. And I went on and on and on. Yes, it's so much worse. And he just looked at me and he was, oh, wow, that look on that face. It's just like, they're children, Anne. They're children. And then I started seeing the child in my father, the child in my mother, to have become what they became. What do you think happened to them? We're all responsible. We all have a responsibility. It's not just what they did. It's what their parents did, their neighbors, their teachers. While that was going on in my family, you think no adults knew what was going on? People looked the other way because it suited them. They were desensitized. And we see this in our society a lot today. That's why feeling is so important.
I feel like you have gone through all this and your wisdom is just so great. And like, I would want to know from you, like, what gift would you love to give the world? Like, if you could give something to every single person, what would that be?
The gift of safety. Fear is born out of feeling unsafe. When we feel safe, fear leaves, and we feel deeply. Then we feel how connected we are to each other, and the goodness in us rises up, and we want to help. We want to serve. So I gave the gift of safety.
I love that answer. That's amazing. So, one question I ask pretty much every guest on my show, sometimes I forget to ask it. But, I have the honor with this show to interview some very successful people, however you want to define success. So my question for you is, what's your definition of success? And what are 3 things you do every single day to ensure that success for yourself?
Success is feeling. It is feeling. Because if I had felt one accolade, one diploma, would I have gotten 18? No. No. So feeling, success is feeling for me. And it's because that makes me emotionally present in the moment. So 3 things that I do is I drink 4 liters of alkaline water a day. 4 liters. That's quite a few gallons.
Yeah.
I meditate 45 to 1 hour a day. And I walk. And when I walk with the intent to feel my feet on the pavement. I don't walk with, I'm going to listen to music and I'm going to go inside my head. I walk with the intent of being present in my physical body. So these 3 things, they help me greatly. Yeah.
I love that. So obviously there's been so much to unpack here. And there's been so much of your journey that is amazing. And I honor the fact that you've taken your pain and have made it your purpose to go and help others to unlock this, to truly live their own life. So with that being said, how do people get a hold of you? How do they bring you in to speak? How do they hire you as a coach? What's all the good stuff that people can get a hold of you?
Okay. My website is walkinginside.com. My company is Walking Inside Resources because I love walking and life's a journey within. That's why, walking inside. As a speaker, I'm a professional speaker with Keynote Speakers Canada. So people can find me on the Keynote Speakers Canada website. If you go on my website, I have a gift for your audience. I love writing. I have like 30 books up to date.
I love it. I've written 0. So
I'll send you a link so that your audience can just click on that link and download a free book.
Awesome. That's amazing. Thank you so much for that. So what's the greatest advice you've ever received in your life?
Oh, goodness gracious.
I know there's been a lot.
Never gave advice. And the reason for that, when you think about it, when we give advice, we're preaching. We're preaching to what we need to do it. As soon as I catch myself giving advice, I'm like, damn. I'm like, talk to the hand. I need to go within myself right now. Obviously, I'm the one who needs to do this.
I love it.
Never give advice.
I love that's amazing and so true. And it obviously resonates with what you just said earlier, where when you used to coach, you told people. When you coach now, you listen. And I think that's obviously rings true for you. Never give advice, which I think is great advice. And so with that being said, obviously this podcast is called The Growth Now Movement. And I wrap up every single episode with this one question, and that is, in your life, what has been your biggest moment of growth?
That moment, when Dove walked up to me, and I did not know what was going on. But that moment that made that, I would say, unconscious choice in that moment. But part of me knew and let go. Whatever was going on, I was willing. And I know that I was willing. I was willing to know. I was willing to learn. So that was the defining moment.
I love it. And this has been so amazing. And like I said to Dov when I messaged him after we spoke, I feel blessed to now know you and call you a friend. Thank you so much for coming on, sharing your wisdom. I feel like we're going to be having you on again in the future, because we could have went in 10,000 different directions because of your wisdom and your journey and everything. But thank you so much for being you, for impacting the world in such a positive way. And like I said, I just feel honored to have you here.
Well, it's an honor that I think so highly of you. I was like Justin Shanker's podcast. Wow. Thank you for having me as a guest.
Thank you.
Truly a blessing.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for being a part of the Growth Now movement. This is how you can really help me out. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please share it out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that fun stuff. And let's grow this movement to epic heights. And it's all going to be because of you guys. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next week.